Open the meeting at 7:36.
No, 32.
Huh?
32.
32, you're correct.
Let's not quibble, I'm writing down 7:30.
Has anybody got any omissions or corrections to the minute?
I've got a couple things to add that we can, oh, I'm sorry, on the agenda at the end.
I've just got a couple things. Let's see. On the second page, about the aquatic plant identification, I just added that I spelled out the Department of Conservation and Recreation, and I also added a free aquatic plant identification training. And
Oh, the switch isn't up.
Oh, I did.
Oh, no, it's up. Okay.
And I was wondering, I might embarrass myself about this, but the discussion of enforcement orders for Turkey Farm, 204772,
Is it on?
on Lot 5.
I guess we're having camera technical.
Oh, it's on, it's right there, I see it.
Okay, it's on now.
It has been on since you flipped the switch.
Oh.
We just started. We're doing the minutes now. Okay, so anyway, the Turkey Farm, work to date, I'm sorry, no, it's Turkey Farm under 204772 Farm Pond Open Space E, Lot 5. It says Ms. Green reported that Mr. Gareffi, and I didn't see his name, I wasn't familiar with Mr.
Oh, he's Board of
Gareffi.
Health, Jim Gareffi.
Oh, all right. That's just my other
Yep.
question, and that's it. Other little teeny edits.
Anybody else got any corrections or omissions?
I thought they looked good.
Good.
Can I have a motion to,
I'll motion to accept the minutes as amended.
do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Thank God.
Phew, got through that one.
And we got administrative discussion, parking, how do you want to go through this?
Well, yeah, why don't we do that first, I think, then he can take off.
So Mike actually isn't here yet.
Fine.
So I can tell you guys what happened at the Park and Rec meeting if you'd like. I went last Tuesday. So they did appoint Mike Crory from that board to be our liaison to this board. So he was hoping to make it tonight and kind of just introduce himself and get things moving. But
Okay.
yeah.
Did we appoint a liaison? Or are we going to?
We didn't. I don't know
Okay.
if we're going
Are you
to.
looking for
Okay.
another job?
No.
And,
No. Well, I didn't know if it was just one way, they're coming here, but we're not going there. Okay, that's fine.
Had the major staff here last week.
That's true. That's true. Two of them came. Yep, Mike, Mike and Alicia.
Vote to Wetlands fees in an amount not to exceed $100 towards operating expenses for the remainder of FY 2017. Is that?
Yep, that goes hand in hand with the salary adjustment to get us through fiscal year, and this is to get the expenses through the fiscal year.
Okay.
Only 100? That's not much. But
That's not for the whole year, that's to. that's-
30th.
That's
Finish it
over.
out.
Okay, just for 1 month?
Less than a month.
Less than a month, okay.
Oh, I haven't spent any money, obviously, until July 1st.
Somebody want to make a motion to that effect?
I will make a motion to utilize wetland fees in an amount not to exceed $100 towards operating expenses for the remainder of FY 2017.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do we need to go over standardizing special order conditions?
Nope, unless you're a glutton.
No.
Bylaw change?
Keep
Is that
moving.
something? Certificate of Compliance, 11 Lincoln Drive, 204-819.
That was the one where it was already a slope and he wanted to push it out a little bit, so, because his lawn was like this. I've inspected it and it's all stable. They had the drain running across the back of the property. It was a big deal, that's all fixed up.
Okay.
Somebody want to make a motion to
I'll make a motion to issue, is this right? Certificate, to issue the certificate of compliance for 11 Lincoln Drive, 204819.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Do you have a paperwork for us to sign?
Thank you.
So we're going to wait on the possible bylaw changes and standardized special order of conditions when Sarah is here?
I think that makes sense.
Yes, we can do that. I mean, she'll be back in the fall, so we certainly won't make town meeting if you're planning on doing anything, but.
Oh, you mean she went to Maine, like her permanent?
She went to Maine.
Permanently, yeah, her permanent trip.
Sometimes she comes down, sometimes she didn't. She thought she was coming to this meeting.
I see.
Yeah, got called back.
Oh,
Move along, do you want to do a Kimball Farm update?
Kimball Farms, they're putting in a water main to connect back to the treatment plant. So I went out and inspected the hay bales and reminded them they were supposed to let us know before they did anything.
Uh-oh.
But they were not going, they were just staying within the roadbed. And, there's a wetland bridge out there, and they didn't have to go under or anything, they stay inside the bridge.
How
So
can they do that and not let it freeze?
they worked it out with the water department. I don't know if the pipe,
Insulated pipe or
they
something?
worked it out with the water department.
So what treatment plant are they connecting to? The one that's on the property or the new one they built?
The new one way in back, that is for Kimball's, really.
Which one?
It's the treatment plant that will be treating the water from Kimball's, not from the residential development on this side.
So the big,
So a little piece of that treatment plant, well, none of it's in the buffer zone. I think a little bit of it's in Littleton.
Is it the
But the
original?
water main is in Littleton.
Is this the original one that they were planning to use? It's cement?
Yeah, they
Foundation around it.
redesigned it. They were under an enforcement order, and I wasn't really, and it's been a while, so I wasn't following it really closely.
Okay.
But you guys did give them the extension, but that's
They have a
expires in
deadline
September,
on it.
I think, or
Yeah.
December or something, so
Oh.
they gotta decide what they're doing, or lose it.
don't remind them.
And just quickly, so I can check these off, wetland creation, and I don't think there's been a wetland creation since I've been here.
I like to look at that.
In the last couple of years. But Durkee has a wetland creation area, if anybody wants to see that, and Newtown, Fred Field's old parcel, has a wetland creation. So if anybody wants to do a site visit on these things,
Fred Fields.
I mean the bridge, the
The
one with the
bridge.
bridge.
yeah, they've done that, wetland mitigation, wetland and floodplain compensatory storage.
And you've seen it?
Yes. I've seen them both.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
All right, I guess we've kind of gone through. Did you have anything else you wanted to add in there? Under discussion item, administrative discussion item?
Nope.
Okay. Guess we'll open the public hearing, notice of intent, 204-8 XX 136 Mill Road, U36-14D for replacement of septic system and house addition.
Hi,
Oh,
my name's Doug Smith, with Soil Smith Designs. I did the work, and the homeowners are here too. Got the
Singular.
green slips and
No,
the
thank you.
newspaper. Do I turn that in here?
Yep, can just leave it with me.
So this would be the
Yep.
assessor's list. There's the newspaper article in there.
Okay, great,
And the green slips.
excellent. Love the paperwork, huh?
And the ones that I didn't get back, I have a photocopy of. I've got the ones checked off that came.
They came in, yeah.
And then the other ones.
Okay, excellent.
So, on this site, I had a this on a nice piece of cardboard, but with the rain, it took it off, so it wouldn't get all completely ruined as I walked in. But you've got Beaver Brook, and I had put wetland flags there, B1 through B7, right along the high water mark of the brook.
Feel free to just actually put the plan there, yeah, that would
Okay.
be, I think it'd be easier for you.
Okay.
That's generally what we do.
There's also the floodplain elevation of 214, that's the orange. And they've got an existing house here, and on the plan, I show the old system, which is trenches, and a brand-new one is going right in basically the same spot, but being raised up a little bit higher and also putting in a pump. So it's, they'll be digging out the old one, putting the new one in basically the same spot. As far as different wetland setbacks, I found a little area on the neighbor's property. I didn't put flags in there since it was on someone else's land, but I did get shots with my transit exactly where it is. And that's the 50-foot setback here, here's the 100 line, which bisects into that septic just a little bit. Also, there was a small area near the brook itself that was wet, and I put some wetland flags in there, A1 through 5. And I didn't realize it until after, and Melissa explained to me, it seemed a little strange how this one appeared. She had explained that at one point they had some kind of work done in their driveway where a big truck came in and made some damage, so a pipe was put in. And then it sort of made sense to me because I just couldn't understand why this was the way it was, but I flagged it, and then there was one other spot along the driveway heading towards Mill Road, but that's way over 100 to any work, so those are the three wetland areas.
Where's the property line? Oh, property line.
This is one property line here, then it goes a little bit past the brook.
Okay.
It's 4.2 acres. It's a long, sort of a long, narrow lot. Mill Road is out here. This is the driveway. The land continues quite a distance, 500, about 930 feet along that axis. There's a little bit of an angle there. And the whole thing follows that brook, Beaver Brook.
Brook, okay, yeah.
You get another diagram here from the town maps which shows, this is a lot here, there's the brook. And there's a surveyed plan, same thing at the brook.
Okay, where in relationship to the sawmill is this piece of property?
When I went to the site, I passed the sawmill, and I went up the road a little bit on Mill and took a left. So it was probably, is it one of the next driveways?
You're talking about Parley Lumber?
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's at the corner of Warren and Mill.
yeah,
So if you go over the bridge.
yeah.
And where the house that's very far back on the left. First one. The first one, right over the bridge.
Pretty much opposite where the entrance to the Mill Hill is.
Farther on up, farther on up.
Slightly
You know Robert Rumley?
Huh?
Rumley? Right next door. His backyard is our front yard.
Oh, okay.
Give you an idea how far back.
And if you want to explain with the addition, that might hopefully to how you mentioned to me how your parents.
Yeah, my mother, my father deceased in January, and we're hoping to move my mother down. So we are hoping to create an addition to take care of her in her later years.
Where's that gonna be?
That's this section right here.
Is that all filed for at this point in time?
It's been
It's
filed with
included
Board
in
of
the
Health.
filing?
Yes, oh yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So what's the distance to that little wetland?
It's only 28 feet to the closest point of the addition to the closest wetland flag, A2. So what I had showed on the plan is to do a mitigation area because of that, 3 times the size of, because that would be the 50-foot setback, this line here, and I know with your bylaws, it's a sort of a tough thing, but
Wait, sorry, so the yellow line that goes across the house is
Yes.
the,
That would be a 50-foot. When I took this
50.
line and made a circle at different spots, that would be the 50-foot.
Is that the only place you can, is that the furthest place on the property you could put that to keep away from the wetland? Could you flip it to the other side?
And just so you know, when you go within, do anything within the 50, you have to have an alternatives analysis and have a substantiate your, like a benefit, or at least a.
And the 50-foot is from bank as well, not just BVW.
Right, and isn't it 200 from?
Well, there's a riverfront area too.
Yeah, we got riverfront. This red dotted line is the 100-foot riverfront, and here's the 200 back here.
So the entire thing, yeah.
So the whole piece of property is in the 200. I'm keeping the entire septic system just barely out of the 100. But
The septic system's not a problem, because we have to, is it a failing system?
it is, yeah. They've
Yeah,
been
so-
pumping the tank.
So we try and work
2 weeks,
with,
I think. or-
we work with landowners, and you've kept them enough distance away, so,
Plus it's in the same place as the previous
same
one.
place, so we're good with that.
Yeah.
Our concern is definitely addition.
I think the house had been grandfathered and we built it, what, 93, I think? 92, 93, so it's a newer one, in the, I don't want to say newer, but compared to Bob Romley's house, which has been there existing. And I think that it was grandfathered in to be able to build in a certain area, and I think it was like 60 feet by something, and I think most of the addition is still within that 60 feet, because we don't have a garage or anything, we're just a 3-bedroom, 1,700 square foot house. When they had purchased the property, whoever had bought it, I can't remember the guy's name, that bought the land before us had filed paperwork, and it just kept getting grandfathered in to build within that period of space from the wetlands.
Did you continue that paperwork? Is there a trail is it still active?
I don't know, what do you mean, as far as it being an as-built, or?
No, with that paperwork where he started, where he had the,
I have the old paperwork that.
but has it continued? Has it been kept up?
I don't know.
Because that
We haven't.
wasn't an order of conditions, that was a separate, must have
Separate?
been, what, with
Oh, was
building or
it?
zoning
Oh,
or
it wasn't
something?
order conditions.
Right, that
I
was
thought
to
it
be able to
Yeah.
build within the 50 feet.
I don't know what that paperwork
They're
is.
not even in a, I do have the old paperwork that he continually filed starting in 85 that still allowed him to build a house in 93. That shows a certain area, and I actually have the original plans for the house that you would see that showed that there was a certain area that he was allowed to work with.
From the Conservation Commission?
From the original filing of the land.
So what, you mean it was a building?
I'm
That-
suspecting
that
it's the
building
planning board.
It must have been, yeah, it's got nothing, because it would have expired
Yeah.
ages ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did have to get signed off by the Conservation Commission when, after we purchased the house and everything was built and done and everybody came to
Yeah.
inspect it.
Oh, that makes sense,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was all signed off on.
So there was
We did have to
so
get-
he had he had an order of conditions to build the house.
But I-
What did that order of conditions say? Did it say that you had an ability to do an extension at that point? Or is it just for the house?
Said, that we were allowed to build, I think the town had said 60 feet by lengthwise, and I can't remember widthwise what we were allowed to.
Do we have a copy of that old order?
I think it's probably planning board, and they just did the lot. I think that's probably where that would have come.
Is that all?
Yeah, but
You're
she
not
said,
act-
she said she had to sign off on the,
Yeah, but that would have been
be a
us.
certificate of
But I'm
compliance.
saying, I think when they established the lot, that probably
yeah, but I was
planning
wondering,
board.
if the order of conditions had, if they had put in for an expansion of the house. So under that order of
Well,
conditions.
it could be.
Maybe.
It's not in the filing, right? I didn't see anything mentioned about that in the filing.
No, I mean, as far as filing for this edition?
Yep.
Or, no, I just have older paperwork at home that had the original plans to show we were allowed to.
Just the existing house.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to get at, whether
I'm sorry.
the plan had this room for an addition on it.
No, it
Okay,
didn't.
all right.
Just for the amount of space that we were allowed to
Yeah.
build with.
Okay.
And
And
we
you-
didn't take up all that space.
You did it, so you didn't build, the house you built is not what was allowed. It was smaller.
We could build bigger.
Yeah.
Correct, right.
Yeah, it's
And
like
the house-
36 by 26 now or something. And
That was-
with the addition, I think it would probably extend to use up that 60 feet that she's talking about.
Or maybe it was the Board of Health permit for the old septic system.
We also had, the house was approved by, to be a 4-bedroom house, and we made 1 bedroom a master bedroom. So it's actually only a 3-bedroom house, in addition would be our 4th bedroom that was originally in the plans.
Hmm.
That the septic had been approved for actually a
Yeah.
4-bedroom house.
I don't think it matters, because the house, whatever house was built was built. Yeah, it could have been approved, but it wasn't, probably wasn't approved by us. We would approve the existing, the proposed house.
Yeah, and not some potential house
Right.
20 years later.
Right.
When I did the testing for the septic system, I did test holes all the way around, and where the soil was there, there's really not any other spot comfortable that I could put it, and then by the time you measure 20 feet from the house to get that house setback, I mean, maybe the addition could be tweaked some to get a little more of a distance, but I guess what I'm saying is.
You have to get beyond 50.
It's sort of limited, you know, to.
We're also not in a flood zone either, believe it or not, even though we're, you know,
Very high up.
we're very high up.
Brook, which is right
And it's been surveyed several times by mortgage companies that have come out and they've determined we're flood zone C.
Hmm.
It seems to me that maybe a site visit is appropriate, but also the form of paperwork that you have might be
I'd like to take a
helpful
look,
to us. See,
It might be.
see what the wording is.
But you know, so we can see what the wording is, but it may not mean anything. We could look at it.
Yeah.
Can I ask another question? If we extend a pipe that is underneath our driveway now that's causing this extra water to be there and change where it drains to.
No, the wetland's already there, so you can't, like,
Well, we caused the wetlands, I think.
and it doesn't matter. As long, it doesn't matter who caused them, if the wetland's existing,
But if you change
And
the
the wetland's
pipe and then
existing.
stop draining into that area, would the wetlands
yeah, you can't
disappear?
do that, because,
But
Can't
what
do
if
that.
an animal built a home in there, because we have chipmunks that float right back and forth through that pipe.
you can't deliberately
Like if you
stop water
extended
from
the
going
pipe-
and change a wetland.
No, I'm saying, if, like, right now the pipe is draining this way, what if we just extended it so it like drained it way over here?
But you would need an order of conditions for that too, because you'd be working in the 100-foot buffer zone.
Just to put a pipe on another
I mean,
pipe
might be able to look at
extend
it
the
in the
pipe?
field, but
Any placement of fill material, pipes considered.
And if that happens and then that wetlands disappears because it stops draining into that area, does that matter?
yes.
Yeah, we usually try to maintain whatever drainage flows into a wetland currently. We usually try to maintain that, yeah.
That's the
The
second
plants were
question.
there, the it had the signs, so.
Did it have all the signs? It had soils, plants, and hydrology? Hmm?
Yes.
I was gonna say we could have someone come up
It
and take a
seemed-
look
it-
at
Yeah,
it.
I mean,
It would be helpful if we saw the
We could have Amy-
paperwork, and it
we
seems
could have
that we
Amy
need
take a
to
look
have
at
a
it
reason
briefly.
why
She
we
could
would
tell you.
allow
Mm.
this addition to be built.
We require it to be in the public interest, or that's one of the requirements.
And it's not an isolated wetland because it's connected to Beaver Brook, right?
yeah, it's right up
and
against.
in the floodplain, yeah.
It's up against it. I mean, I guess we could ask Amy to take a look at it.
I could do that.
She's a wetlands person, so
Yeah.
she could tell you in a second whether it's, your line's correct, or,
Okay.
I think we'd be willing to do that.
So we'd like to.
Because it looks like you might be able to certainly be 50 feet away from Beaver Brook with a little bit of tweaking.
Mm.
Yeah, because it's pretty close now, and it wouldn't take too much to push the house a little closer to the septic to get the 50 from,
Can you flip the addition to the other side? You don't have the room.
possibly, but
You
I
didn't
don't
look for
know.
wetlands back there, though, did you?
The
I
50
follow
foot goes
the brook,
there,
which sort
too.
of stays in a straight line, but as far as going and looking for other wetlands as I went further
I
down,
think
no.
there's another little trickle down through the middle of the woods there
Yeah.
that may stop that type of a back. We flipped it to the other side.
Hmm.
I mean, we can talk to our builder to see it, just,
Well, that doesn't get you, it doesn't get you much, because the 50-foot no disturb zone is drawn incorrectly. It should actually go out the
Oh.
220. So if you extend it along 50 feet from the bank,
Oh,
it's
I got you.
not as much room there as you
I
might think.
get you.
Is there any way to build up instead of to the side?
so when the house was built, we actually flip-flopped the front and the back. It sounds odd. It was supposed to be a bulkhead. If anybody ever drives by and you go by Beaverbrook or go by Carly Lumber, you'll see the front of the house is now towards Bob Romilly's house. That was the back of the house. But when we reversed it, he actually gave us a sliding glass door in the back. So we have a sliding glass door that leads right out to Beaverbrook. So we basically have 3 floors already, plus an attic. So I don't, the building.
The height
is
would
not
be
gonna
too
work.
high.
Yeah, it's like a walkout basement is what she's
Right.
referring to.
Yeah.
And,
Wouldn't be
Very steep,
legal height.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if Amy looks at
Yeah.
it and sees
Yes.
that maybe this isn't as critical as I was thinking, and then if they did push the house a little bit closer this way, maybe
You're still in the
50 could-
100, you're still in the riverfront.
Still in the 100, yeah.
It's a tough site. You get the Beaver Brook with the riverfront, and you get the wetland, and it's kind of squeezed in there.
Yes, yeah.
What's the required setback from the addition from the septic, or from the house from the septic?
20.
20?
Right now, it's, right now it's 32, so I mean, could gain some of that would work with.
Yeah, and I don't know how it works inside the house. If you could L it, it also might pull more of it, the addition away, but I'm not sure if that works with how the house is laid out. You know, or you
I
take,
thought of
orient it the
things
other
like that,
direction.
Push it a little that way, maybe even angle it a little, but it's all, maybe after a site check, you know, we can,
And your builder could do an alternative analysis for it, what the options are.
I guess if that's what we have to do. We definitely want to continue exploring this, try and make this work. I can't leave my mother up in New Hampshire alone anymore, so.
Yeah, because it's a waiver process, so, you know, there's a series of things you have to meet, so if you could take a look at that, and,
But she's got a couple things to overcome. She has the riverfront to overcome.
Single-family home.
We're not looking to make an in-law apartment, we're just looking to make, a bathroom, a bedroom and a living space, that's it. No kitchen or anything.
I'm sorry, what's the addition size? 20, do you say?
We just need to think of we need to think of a long-term view, and just because you're doing this now and you own it now,
36 by
It
20
could be,
is.
you guys could
what
sell
I've got drawn.
anytime, right? And then it becomes a larger house than it was, and it's closer to, so we just from our perspective.
I believe you should probably look at what the options are with the waiver process.
Because you would also need it's not 1,000 square feet of new impervious, but it probably is more than 5% increase. So that means looking at stormwater.
Looking at what?
Looking at stormwater,
Stormwater?
yeah, which,
Stormwater management to treat the water that would come off the roof of the addition.
which for the last 2 have been basically a Coltech system to handle the roof runoff.
Do you have a time we'd move this to for next time around?
It would be July 10th. I don't have the times yet. Did you write your emails down on the sign-in?
I did not, I will do that.
So do we want to set up a site walk to go have a look at it and?
Yeah.
And we prefer the homeowners be there. Is there anything that would need to be staked? The septic system is gonna be the same.
Yeah, you can sort of see where that is. It's a high point on the land where the septic is. You can see where the tank is at this point.
Closest.
So that's pretty easy.
Closest corner of the addition to the wetland.
Yeah.
And these trees sort of are right on the boundary.
So I guess the Cal would like the closest corner to the wetlands, the addition, proposed addition.
And then you've got what you think is the wetland flag, right?
Yeah, it's all flag labeled. Yeah.
Good luck trying to see it though. Filled in. A lot of leaves, a lot of plants.
Okay.
I could do
The
Sunday.
first time Doug went over, he didn't even see the pipe coming through.
No, I didn't until you pointed it out to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so was,
I could do Sunday,
Sunday.
25th.
And I won't be here until the 3rd, but obviously you guys can go out and I can go out separately, but
Are you when are you leaving?
Wednesday.
Wednesday? So you could get out sooner than us.
That would be tomorrow.
Let's see.
Do you have time?
Maybe tomorrow.
I'm not saying I could, but
You can
I
do
was just
tomorrow
trying
and
to-
Sunday too. Whenever you guys want to.
I don't think I can do it tomorrow. I've already got a couple things set up.
all right. So just come up with a different day.
So do you want to do Sunday
I can do
sometime?
Sunday.
That's fine with me.
What time would y'all
Sunday,
like to do?
Sunday I'm not available, but you guys go. I'll be happy with. I'll make my way out, or Amy will get there. I'll be happy with somebody doing it.
what
Or
time?
you and I could go out some, if that
And I
works
can
too.
go out.
What time, those that can make it, what time?
Earlier in the morning would be preferable.
Okay. Like 8:30, 9 o'clock. something like that. What would you prefer?
I don't know, maybe a good 10 o'clock walk.
Suck the whole day away.
How about 9:30?
Okay, 9:30.
Does that work, Rachel?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
And Carl, do you want to set up something for July 3rd, or should I just do it myself, or
July 3rd, what is,
that's a Monday?
let's just communicate, you and
Okay.
I.
All right.
Would it help for me to leave this set of plans for when any of you go out there? I know.
That'd be great, actually.
Some-
I guess my next question, will you be able to get it staked between now and Sunday?
When you state, oh,
The
where
co-
the property line, where the.
No, the corner of the addition, the closest corner of the
Yeah, I
addition?
can ask Josh and see if we can get that done.
Okay? And somebody will be there, one of you folks will be there,
We'll be
On Sunday?
okay? And you haven't got a big dog, right?
Do have a teenager, a couple of them, so.
No.
Oh, they'll be asleep.
For the older-
Yeah, right.
They'll be sleeping, no worries.
Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Okay, we gotta move
All right.
along.
All right, thank you.
So Sunday at 9:30.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it.
And DEP has not issued a file number, so we couldn't have closed tonight anyway, but you might want to check in with them and see what's going
Yeah, I heard
on.
that they had
They're always slow, but,
said that they got it, but there's no number.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good night.
Project update, Durkey Farm Enforcement Order, DEP file number 204-772, Road. 204-817, Lot 7, 204-804, Lot 30.
So you brought company. You can do it totally by yourself.
Oh, no, no.
Taking this.
Yeah, he will hold on to it.
Is that what going on now?
I'll have to different plans until Sunday.
Now you have to go.
Show up at 9:30.
So unfortunately, Dave and Chris and Mike are not able to make it this evening, so this is Dave Cowell, our freshman wetlands.
Very good, I guess.
So I guess status updates for right now. We had a restoration, or a wetland replication area that work was commenced on. I believe, Amy, you had overseen a little bit of that.
Yep.
And then-
Came unvisited for a bit in the afternoon.
Yeah, if you want to
Constructing
just
it.
describe kind of.
Sure, I can give you guys a brief summary. So we had the wetland replication area was detailed in the order of conditions. So we finally got the work executed. So we coordinated, I went out, Brian and I met with Mike Genetti on site and actually discussed execution, how to avoid encroachment into the wetland resource area while still being able to develop the replication area and tying into it hydrologically. We inspected the sediment controls that are in place out there and discussed an access route to get down with the excavator to avoid the least intrusive way. And then essentially, it's you start at the far end and it's sort of paint yourself out of the corner and back your way out of there. We did make a few, small modified field changes that I think are to the benefit of the system. We started on the opposite side makes no spatial reference unless. I had a few of the replication plans. I don't know if you guys wanted to look at it while we. Oh, you have a big one. Excellent. What's that?
I believe you're a representative from Green.
Yep.
International.
Oh, yeah. Did you have a?
Want to come up, or?
Oh,
or
Not yet.
follow along?
I hadn't looked at it. When,
Oh, that's
when you guys get to
Yeah.
the stuff that I reviewed, I'll.
Keep a distance.
the engineering scope. Right. So the replication area is adjacent to. Is it lot 8 or 9?
This is lot 8.
Lot 8. It's adjacent to Lot 8, essentially where we, this is mitigation for the impacts to the installation of Balsam Lane, is that the name of the road? Where there was a bridge span and there was some wetland impact there. So we had a wetland replication area detailed that I think was something on the order of a 3-to-1 ratio of replication for the disturbances that we had created. So just down gradient within the same drainage channel or the same swale, there was a corrugated metal culvert with stones on it, and that was specified to be taken out. And then I think there was 1,200 square feet of replication proposed. When we first started digging down and excavating, it was specified to be 1 foot below grade that we were going to take out and then fill it with 6 inches of topsoil. The soil didn't appear to be as wet as I had hoped for. However, I had pointed out to Amy when she came in the field that we were definitely connected to obligate wetland species like skunk cabbage and Joe Pyeweed. So I actually conservatively asked him to go down a bit further. So throughout the area, rather than a foot, he went down about 1.5 to 2 feet, which, we should be below the elevation of the existing wetland, and hopefully that'll increase our chances of it taking very well. As he excavated through here, there was a lot of topsoil that was reusable. There were a few bony places where the soils appeared nutrient poor, so he actually has stockpiles of screened loam from the site available on site. So in a few areas, as I pointed out to him, I'd have him remove the inorganic material and bring down some fresh organic topsoil to top dress it. Once he was done top dressing it, it was specified for an application of a wetland seed mix. The wetland seed mix was, and this is from the seed vendor, was specified to be applied at 1 pound per 1,200 square feet. So I had him order 2 pounds, and he applied the 2 pounds, and it was visibly very sparse. So conservatively, I asked that he order another 2 pounds and come back out and apply 4 pounds total on the site, which again, I think hopefully increases our likelihood of it taking. Once that was done, it was top dressed with a light application of straw mulch, which not only helps stabilize the soil a little bit, but pursuant to the soil vendor, it's also supposed to retain some moisture and aid with soil or seed germination.
And when was that done?
This was done a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. It was on June 2nd.
It should be somewhat established if it
Yeah.
didn't get drowned.
Right.
Yep. Yep. So right now, so this, I wrote a monitoring report, which was one of the conditions, or not a monitoring report, a construction report. And now there'll be some monitoring. We'll definitely need to track it a little bit, go out there, especially in the next few weeks, to see if there's any seed germination or anything coming up out of there.
Do you know if it's inundated? I mean,
I had him send me some site photos. I don't know, given the rain events that we've had. It was not inundated, but saturated.
The backside got inundated.
Okay.
Because it's,
There was some standing
it
water.
was actually tilted away from the stream, so there was standing water in there. It's probably gone now.
Oh,
but-
where so it's pitched away from?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So it doesn't drain down.
do the seeds in a wetland seed mix sprout when they're saturated?
Probably not.
Yeah, they're slow, though.
Yeah.
Slow.
They're
Slow,
slow, and
right.
a lot of times they need to overwinter, so
Yeah.
it could take a while before
We
you.
didn't propose any plantings, did we? It was all seed mix?
Yeah, because the impact area was,
Yeah.
was all emergent, basically.
Right, yeah. This is all
Seems
ground.
like that's a light mix, even 4 pounds. To what I
Yeah,
would-
so, well, part of
What I
the,
would use would be 7 or 8 pounds.
For that amount of space?
yeah,
Well, for.
Well, different mixes have different rates,
Yeah.
so it's,
right.
yeah.
This
Depends
was
how
the,
long.
this was, some point it breaks it down. So, yeah, this is a seed mix, and the rate of application was 18 pounds per acre, or 1 pound for every 2,500 square feet. Which, and that was just my judgment call. I mean, that's from the seed vendor, but when I was out there, it looked sparse, so I had them go from 2 to 4.
And I do think there's probably a huge seed bank out there already.
Right.
Where the organics come from?
They were native on site. When they did the initial grading on the site, he has separate stockpiles that, based on either screen loam or stone or whatever. So it was, I don't know where on the site it was excavated. I'm sure all of it is mixed into one big screened organic loam pile. So that's where it was taken from.
I forget what the drainage is there. Is it leading anywhere, or is it just gonna pool?
Well, we took it down a load. Essentially, I had them cut 2 or 3 areas where, if it does impound, the intention, as you said, it looks like it might pitch backwards. The intent is that it would drain into the stream or the swale.
Whereas the stream channel goes all the way down to Grimes.
Yep,
Okay.
which goes down grade into Grimes.
So it might just, the seeds might just wash down.
Well, hopefully having them on there and having them, the mulch, the intended purpose is to have it bind there.
The only area I know is flooding is basically isolated. It's
Yeah.
pitched back, so those seeds weren't getting watered
Well,
anywhere.
we'll know
Yeah, we'll
after
know.
the first growing season.
Let's
If
just say, you guys.
If it's sucking, if it doesn't,
Even if it washes into the wetland, I
Right.
guess it doesn't matter.
we'll
There's-
know, and then it's gonna be replanted if we don't get the numbers we're looking for.
No, and that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
It's a 3-year monitoring period for which we would have to
Hi.
do an annual monitoring after each growing season and produce a report. And it is subject to corrective action or adaptive management if the commission finds that. I think our standard was that it wouldn't be considered stable until the emergence of a minimum of 70% vegetative cover. And we'll also take a look at the species too. Unfortunately, I think as Amy pointed out, there's a lot of reed canary grass out there, and it's sort of like putting your finger in the dike and trying to stop it from flooding. It's really, that'll be a tough one. But we'll try to encourage the preferred species and give them a head start in there.
Did you do an as-built or measure out to make sure you got the target size?
Not yet. I talked to Brian and said that was on our schedule. We can do that at any time moving forward. We can have survey go out and as-built. So it's pending, but on our plate.
Oh, this one here.
There was also, We haven't gotten to invasive species management. That's something we can talk about or address. That's actually going to entail a consultation with like a certified applicator to go out and look at I think we had specified some of the Phragmites that was growing in potential vulnerable areas.
So the only other comment I had about that is the slopes are basically one-to-one
Right.
slopes, and I guess the material is just holding. So you've got, once the Reed canary grass takes back over again, you're gonna be walking along and just go wham. So remember that it's there.
Yeah.
I assume those banks will be stable.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things, I sort of considered the fact that these are going to be residential homes, and hopefully, I mean, it will be wetland, and people don't have a proclivity, unless you're a wetland scientist like me, to put on your boots and wade into those things. But, yeah, they'll be, and over time, those grades will start to, level, I guess, as they weather. We did apply some erosion control fabric to the banks. Oh, the monitoring of the removal of the culvert. Prior to that, we had put check dams. We put some straw wattles and straw bales directly in the channel, immediately down gradient. And I monitored as the contractor used his excavator bucket to pull back the stone, pull back the culvert. There was a temporary minimal disturbance where the water experienced a little bit of turbidity over a period of maybe 10 minutes. I monitored the down gradient water quality. The check dams appeared to be doing their job. And within half an hour to an hour, the water quality had returned to the same water quality as the pre-disturbance condition. And I walked up and down to the edge of the property just to look and see if there was any visible sediment deposition or turbidity, and there was none visible.
So that was our replication progress so far. And then since last meeting, we received comments from Luke and Green International regarding our discovery on Infiltration Basin 3 and Open Space E. I don't know if the commission would like
Yeah, I emailed around on Friday.
on that, but generally speaking, I believe we were in agreement with recommended reconstruction practices on Infiltration Basin 3 and potential, the discovery on Open Space E, where the standing water came from. And now, with respect to Open Space E, I'd really like to forward the discussion in coming up with a plan to de-water that area and then be able to get into the wetland and do whatever remedial action that we need to do to restore it back to the historic condition of it.
What are you considering?
Do you want to close out Basin 3 first, since that seems to be a little bit neater, maybe?
We basically, and Luke, please correct me if I'm wrong, there was a minor modification to the proposed plan where we were gonna relocate the outlet of the drawdown device towards the outlet structure itself, or within the outlet structure itself.
Into the outlet control
Yeah.
structure.
Sorry, could you remind me where 3 is?
Infiltration Basin 3 is
Oh,
right
yeah.
here at the corner
On the-
of Fraser and Balsam.
Okay.
Yep. And I took a drive by before the meeting this evening, and the standing water elevation is pretty far below where the lowest orifice is, so they have been actively pumping it, and that seems to be working for the time being.
Are they adding water to it from across the street?
Nope, they de-watered 5, I believe, last week, and that was just pumped across the street.
Yeah,
It wasn't-
Rachel and I went out and looked at it. It's
Yeah.
going across the street.
Yeah, I don't think they put it into Basin 3.
And how's it doing across the street?
You know, it was soggy. They had put in sort of a sump, so it was coming out basically clean. It got to, I don't know, the second, third row of hay bales, the last row of hay bales, but didn't really get the water, not much beyond that. And the grass is so thick out there, you don't realize you're in
Right.
water, and you can't see it, but
Right,
you can
till you
hear it
step in it, yeah.
as you're splashing around out
Right.
there.
Well, should we go through the comments?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, we were in general agreement with their the procedure that they outlined for infiltration basin 3. We just essentially had some, like Brian said, some minor suggested modifications. Our first comment is essentially saying that in their stormwater calcs, they had done groundwater mounting analyses for several of the infiltration basins. They had not done one for this one. Now that they've done the test pit and confirmed that seasonal high groundwater is between 2 and 4 feet below the basin bottom, by volume 3, chapter 1 of the stormwater handbook, they'd be required to do a mounting analysis based on the mounting analyses for the other infiltration basins that they previously performed and included in their initial submission of their stormwater report. It doesn't appear that it's going to be a deal breaker, but dotting the i's and crossing the t's. So that's the first one. The second one.
Anybody want a copy?
Yeah, that's just a general statement about, this is something that happens,
Cause,
You end
the
up
cause
with
of it, yeah.
drawdown issues in infiltration basins that are used during construction. It's not necessarily atypical,
And this always drives me crazy. The loam is not the culprit here, because sometimes, I've seen contractors blame it on the loam. And I know in this case, there was the fine silts in
Sure.
there too. And someone said, what a lot of times they see is they will be required to mix a little sand in with the loam.
Yep.
So it'll discharge. Is that something in the future that we think we might want to look at, or?
Yeah, that's valid. I mean, yeah.
You still want it to act as loam, but.
You do see them, contractors will often say, yeah, it's just a loam, and it can be if they just really compact it. I mean,
Yeah.
But, if they're careful, and they don't compact it, it's not typically the issue.
So we did spec a net import of material for the loam to put it back there with a specific gradation to restrict the amount of fines, the amount of silt that's
Mhm.
in the material.
Yeah.
So as long as the spec is followed, I'm not too concerned.
Number 4 is just a statement about, it appears that, the drawdown device that they're proposing, it's a pipe and wick system. It, as was designed, it bypassed the outlet control structure and just discharged up and out, which is fine, but we recommended in the next one that it be a little cleaner. We think if they discharged it into the outlet control structure, that way you don't have that stone pipe, that stone pipe trench that can act as a conduit for water to short circuit out of the basin. This will just kind of be an added measure to prevent that from happening, because otherwise it's something you kind of always have to keep an eye out for. Number 6 is operation and maintenance of that drawdown device should be included. And, obviously go to the highway department, as they will be accepting it once the development is accepted by the town. So 7, we recommended that straw wattles be installed downstream of that, the outlet to the drawdown device. If they agree to tie it into the outlet control structure, that is kind of a moot point, so 7 would not be applicable. So 8 is, we recommended that they clean the upstream catch basins and silt sacks, just empty those out before they perform this, remediation on the basin. You don't want to go through the trouble of cleaning this out, only to have the fines that are in the catch basins and in the silt sacks, finding their way downstream,
Mm-hmm. And just to dovetail on that, that is construction sequence item 1 on the
Oh,
plan.
great. And then 9 is just moving forward. They should just continue to monitor the basin for sediment accumulation during construction. And as we had kind of come up with some standard language on previous projects of, if you guys are noticing that it doesn't appear that these basins are dewatering in 72 hours, that you would request them to verify or demonstrate that, you know, that they are actually achieving the required infiltration rates. And 10 is just SWIP inspection reports should be submitted to the town for review, you know, just to kind of identify, you know, I guess if you're seeing this sediment deposition in the infiltration basin, you know, maybe you can catch it before it becomes too big of an issue in the future.
Amy, is Mike getting you what you need on this?
He did, yeah, he started sending me the SWIP reports. Do you want copies of those?
Sure.
Okay, fine. You want Cooper too, or you already get Cooper?
I don't know, Tom, I'll do
Okay,
the run
yeah.
through Tom.
Yeah.
I'm reading the things that he forwards to me.
Anybody got any questions from the board?
So while we're on this, I just want to be clear that when this basin is reconstructed, there is always the possibility that it might have to happen again, just given the fact that the site is being actively worked. So when we get in there and we reconstruct this basin, and then come next spring and we get sediment washed into it and we start to see these issues again, it may need to happen subsequently. And then the point is that Luke had identified with comment 9 is these are all performance-based practices. Before we turn them over to the town, we're gonna make sure that they're working the way that they were designed to be working. Right now, if they're not drawing down, we're still in the middle of construction. We're not actively trying to turn these over to the town. So there are the checks and balances in there to make sure that they're functioning properly.
What's your target date for completion?
Entire
like-
project
yeah.
completion? So we
Talking
had,
months, years?
we had 3 years on phase, I believe, phase 1, which is basically what we're through right now, and I think 5 years to phase 2. So, we've only been working the site for 1 year and 10 houses are up, only 30 houses, so we're making pretty good forward progress.
Thank you.
So what is the schedule for basin 3? One more round of plans to show that
Yeah,
you're
we
using the
can-
OCS?
So what we could do is we can modify the plan based on Green's comments, and then we can do the mounding calculation as well, and put that in there, and then
Pass it through
back
highway.
Yep, and then coordinate with probably Jim or
Jim Clyde or Chris
Chris.
Stoddard?
Chris,
Chris
the
Stoddard.
new,
Yeah.
yes. So we'll look to do that before the next meeting.
Okay. Okay, the next. Open space use wetland. Want to move on to the next one?
I don't know if you want to run through your comments on this one as well.
Sure. That's all right with you guys? Yeah, so there was one statement in there that just seemed a little, it didn't quite sound right when I was looking at the contours, is that in the discovery, you were talking about the stage storage, and it just seemed like that didn't quite, I guess, register with me. So it's, what we're essentially asking for is if you could just do like a stage storage, just because it doesn't really seem like a one-to-one ratio, you know, as it's getting wider as you go up. But in general, I mean, I in general agreement with what you said in there, in your discovery. And so you guys have read that letter. The letter, their letter is essentially saying, you know, their plan is to dewater that, and to essentially, you make an assessment after they dewater it, which I'm in general agreement with. I mean, I think if you're trying to come up with corrective actions now, you're kind of shooting blind a little bit. I mean, there are some things that I feel strongly are going to be a component of it, like this item number 5 in there, where they talk about establishing essentially like the historic hydraulic connection across, essentially where that saddle was. That I think is that appears to be, a critical component of it.
Now, how do you feel about having that background image be, I think was 1995, no. What was the date of the background image?
This, from
Yeah.
last year, this is 2012.
2012. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we have the conditions that are normal, not drought conditions, that you're looking at.
And I've gone through, like in Google Earth, you can go through every year, for
Mhm.
like since the 90s, and I've gone through every year, and every year it kind of looks the same. Yeah, there's water in the pond, there's not water everywhere else. That's, you look through every year, that's what it looks like.
But I
It seemed
mean,
like a pretty consistent.
Consistent size.
Right, well, yeah, if you look at the profile that they cut there, the farm pond is pretty well defined. It doesn't appear, at least in those, I don't really recall at least seeing anything that expanded substantially outside of there.
Because we had been in a drought at least 2 years before this year. So.
Right, yeah, and that's kind of why I had gone back through and looked at those, but yeah, I believe they were all
What
relatively
time of year were
consistent.
you looking at?
Honestly, it's just whenever they take their aerial images. It's not the same time every year. So, if you go back, through 15 images, you're probably getting, different times of year. It's not always like, all those images aren't August.
There's a lot of November. You like to do it when the leaves are off the trees
Oh,
and
yeah.
found.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is a, it is a few different times a year.
That's good, because I wouldn't want to overdraw down this pond.
So, let's go back. What are we doing? Explain what you're doing with the draw, I don't understand.
So what we'd like to do is we'd like
You
to.
draw down and.
Yeah.
Right, we'd like
Right.
to pump out the water to
Out
get
of the
it
pond?
out of the standing water, to get it down to
Does that include the pond?
historic elevation. It's gonna be the whole area to draw.
No, but not to the elevations of standing water as previously defined in the ORAD.
Right,
Well,
defined,
They're
right.
probably like 262.
Yeah.
Probably like
Or
262.
have we,
So the pond won't be drained, because a pond is
The
what,
pond's
5 or
not
6?
gonna be able to be drained because it is
so
groundwater
deep.
fed at some specific elevation, which is probably gonna be around that 262. So it's not like we can dry the entire thing up, it will fill back up to that.
Draw
that
it down
level
until it
that you
recedes
see.
to the banks.
Exactly, you wanna dry out the field, the wet meadow, to be able to assess it and then come up with a plan for restoration. Restabilize all the slopes by the road, re-establish erosion control measures.
well, I don't understand the reassessing. Does that include reshaping? What does reassessing mean?
I mean,
Reassessing,
I'm
well,
confused by taking this water down that's
Yeah.
obviously been standing
right,
for quite a while now.
yeah,
And
4 months.
we don't know if it's in regard to the construction that's been done out there. I mean, you've shown historic images of, but that was
Right.
pre-construction.
Well, during the wetland delineation and ORAD process, there were no field indicators of even periodic inundation of these areas. You do have the pretty well-defined farmer stock pond, which, when I was out there doing the vernal pool investigations, I was trying to determine the depth on this thing, and we went out, I had a staff gauge that was 12 feet tall, and as soon as you step off of you have some vegetated, emergent vegetation with cattails, at which point it becomes, not upland, it's wetland, but it's not inundated. It's, you have water in the soils. But it's very deep. I went out, 12-foot staff gauge, and I took one step off, and I was 4 feet deep in my hip waders, and I was reaching around and probing, and that 12 feet went down pretty far.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. But the vegetated wetland boundary, that limit was defined under the ORAD. And the intent would be to, it's going to be a slow, as Brian was pointing out, this would be a slow and gradual process of drawing water down and assessing it as we see it. As the engineer pointed out, we don't want to pump any faster than the detention basin down gradient can handle. It would be a slow process to make sure that it's, the receiving basin is not becoming inundated and flowing over.
And just to clarify that, we would come up with a dewatering plan. The thought is to pass it through infiltration basin 4, but we haven't fully vetted that yet.
Right.
That,
So-
and that was
Okay.
one thing we said in here, one of our comments was, you know, we recommend that they provide a dewatering plan / procedure. And then we made a couple comments, if they do end up pumping it into, you know, like a filter bag that goes into some catch basins that discharges to an infiltration basin, you know, that there are some things that they should be monitoring,
Right.
if they do go that route.
Yep, I agree. There should be sort of a contingency plan.
So,
Yeah.
I personally don't feel comfortable with the pumping down, because to me, if it's gonna go down, it's gonna go down naturally. If it doesn't go down, it becomes just another resource area.
Well, our
So
concern is.
that's why I'm
Yeah.
concerned about pumping, taking water out of an area that may be trying to transform into a wetland.
It's not trying to transform into a wetland. This is an area that, in construction, is being impounded by activities that we've done, that are actively out there. And if anything, it may be an impairment or an impediment to the existing wetland that's out there. By being,
How's that?
by being inundated, the wetland vegetation that was in the thing, these are wetland plants that are not used to being inundated. The cattails that are in there
Oh,
are emergent. It's an
Other
open,
plants would establish,
not necessarily if it's an open water feature.
or it just becomes open water. We like open water as well as we like wetland.
Sure, but this wasn't as designed.
But that's an impact.
We have,
You're going from an emergent marsh mostly
Right.
to open water, so that's
yep,
gonna be way over 5,000 square feet. So it's if you consider leaving it the way it is.
I mean, they would have to replicate, mitigate.
right. This impoundment is not natural by any stretch of the
Yes, but you
imagination. This is-
created it.
Yeah, in construction, while we're actively under construction. It's not performing as we expected it to do, so now we need to take corrective actions to repair that. This
But
was
if you
subject
didn't
to.
see any way that the water flowed before into the wetland, how are you gonna determine the proper, channel to repair
Right,
it?
it's a good
Yeah.
question.
So what I would plan on.
It didn't have any water when you first started construction.
Correct. So, what I would propose to do is when we dewater this area and we're able to get into the meadow and into the field, we would resurvey this section to figure out exactly where that historic relief elevation was at. I've always said 263 is a ballpark number, but we don't actually know if that is the exact number that we would want to put an overflow underneath the road at. Maybe it's 260.275, maybe it's 260.25. So that would be part of the discovery process when we could actually get in there.
Yeah.
We can assess what restoration we have to do to the wet meadow, and then come up with that permanent solution.
I don't feel comfortable dewatering at all.
And restore the area to the historic
I think it should be allowed to transform naturally and let it take its place wherever it winds up finding its height.
Well, how did it drain before?
This is not as.
Because-
just over the field, so basically.
Okay, so you've basically, and I'm coming into this process a little late, so forgive me for, just
Yeah.
asking a little background. So you basically created, an earth and berm, earth mound, or
The roadway, yeah.
Basically
The
soil,
road
okay.
Went
Oh, and so
through
that's,
the, essentially what this historic elevation of 263
Okay.
is. So with the additional water that entered this area through construction activities or whatever confluence of events would have just flowed across the field, but it can't
But the
do
road's a
that
dam.
now.
you
Correct.
basically
You can
created
see
a
it pretty
dam.
clearly on the profile in that.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
plan
Yeah, I
Brian
can
put
see that.
together.
Yep.
That, at least on there, it looks like it historically overtopped at somewhere around 263-ish, which is above the wetland, which is above the elevation of the wetland, so.
Well, but
if-
the wetland starts at 268
Yeah, so the wet,
Yeah,
it's a
on the
really,
far
it's
side.
on the
a,
far side.
it's
On
a
the far
unique
side.
wetland such that the topography ranges, from like 268 down to 260, 263 or so, 262.5.
And
So
the wetland on the
slope-
far side is at, give or take, 267.
Hmm.
So really, it seemed like the wetlands were flowing into the farm pond rather than the other way
The
around.
whole area just kind of generally slopes from west to east.
Well, yeah, and the seasonal high water was higher. Two.
Seasonal, we're talking about lot 22?
Yeah,
Yeah, so seasonal high groundwater is generally, over here, it's 36 to 42 inches, which is in this area right here. As we get into lot 10 and 11, we're 16 to 36 inches. And then obviously wetland, with the wetland in the middle, groundwater's,
Have you been on site?
No.
That would be an experience.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, see it on the ground is,
Yeah.
yeah, everyone's seen it on the plans.
Mhm.
I
So-
think,
this
Yeah,
seems to make
on
a
my,
case for
like,
the fact that it used to be
11 by 17
artificially
screen.
I think
drawn
a
down
lot
with
of
tile
water
drains or something. The groundwater was
just
depressed. You got a somewhat
went
mounded,
across
if you will,
and mediated
groundwater
itself
Yeah.
out
over on lot
originally.
Yeah, it
22.
happens.
yeah, but given.
But then as you go to the other side, the
Yeah.
groundwater and the wetland are all kind of,
Roads
you know,
about 10 feet
At the
above the
surface
pond.
elevation, but given topography, it wouldn't have been
So
artificially
the
drained.
creator.
It would have been,
We're trying to move water around on a site that's being developed, on a site that had no development but Christmas trees. And it's, you know,
we're trying to.
I don't feel comfortable manipulating the site to favor what you want to do.
we're-
Yeah.
Which I think is where you're headed.
No, I wholeheartedly disagree. This was subject to an ORAD defining the wetland jurisdictional boundary, and that's binding for 3 years. And while we're under active construction on the site, it is our grading and our roadways that are, this was not necessarily planned on. It is an issue. We're identifying it as an issue, and we're taking corrective actions to repair that issue. But I've never seen a precedent set where in-construction practices can create a wetland by, sort of strong-arming us into letting it.
I don't
just
think
go.
we're strong on me, I just think it's a unique situation.
Yeah, it is a unique situation, and what we'd really like to do is take the steps to put it back to the way that it was previously, to be able to restore this area,
We're not,
restore the hydraulic.
we're looking at a natural area that you're trying to restore, I don't understand it. It's a natural site that you're trying to restore. What do you, I mean, so we're man-made, we're
Right.
trying, it doesn't make sense
We're
to
not,
me.
not restoring it,
'Cause
returning it to the wetland boundary that we had previously, that's under the ORAD. The farm pond will remain a farm pond, it'll remain open water, the
Yeah.
wetland will remain wetland.
This site's had a lot of, obviously, water issues, as you know.
We're finding that out.
So, we're trying to work with you as much as we can. This one here is a big bite for me.
What are your concerns by, if we were to dewater it? What is your concern of that?
I don't like the idea of what's gonna happen afterwards.
What,
I mean,
What do you foresee?
I see the site being contoured so that you're right back to the edge of that pond.
I don't,
they
I'm not
can't
sure.
regrade it, they might put
And
it
I'm
in a
not sure if
culvert.
that's, and I'm
They'd be
not sure
putting in
if
a
that's
cross
what the
culvert to take
land
the
wants
place
to
of the
do.
saddle.
I think there's a lot of
Yeah,
water.
my understanding of what they're proposing
True.
is.
Well, they don't know what they're proposing, that's the problem.
Right, right.
All I'm hearing is that you'll do water and you'll look at it and you'll investigate it and you'll see what has to be done. So when I hear things like that, it automatically sends triggers up in my head saying, what the hell? So you're just gonna make it, shape it, and
Well,
it's gonna be the way you want it, so it sits in there, a nice little bowl of water, and nothing else around it, and everything else will be drained off, and see you later.
are you talking about recontouring?
We have not talked about recontouring, so when.
I heard, didn't say recontouring, but you said you will do what you need to do to keep the to bring the water back to where it was.
Maintain.
To me, that means manipulating the
maintain
land.
Pre-construction
To
drainage.
restore the historic hydrology of this area, to allow it to have that overflow at generally that 263 elevation. And what we would like to do after, should the commission allow us to dewater this, is to drill down on what that is, get some micro topography in this area, fully understand what's going on, and then put forth a recommendation.
What if instead of a pipe, you would do a natural swale to a bridge, or more like a bridge with a bank underneath without a pipe?
Under the road?
Yeah.
Like a culvert, like a box
Like a stream
culvert?
crossing standard?
Stream crossing.
I mean, we can certainly look at any number of crossings to try to come up with, something that's appropriate. I mean, we've said pipe, we don't know exactly what that looks like yet.
Right. I mean, I would look at it more favorably if you actually improved the situation there. How would you feel about that? So it's actually more of a natural feature rather than a...
I suppose with a culvert, you could have your wildlife go back and forth,
Right.
a bridge type
Because
situation.
we're trying to get rid of pipes.
Between the
now.
houses?
Yep.
There's already, wildlife access corridors were already designed into it,
Mm.
so that was already kind of assumed.
I think it's more where you'd have it drained from.
So
But I
the-
also-
Have we considered the proposed development adjacent to this?
I think that has to be strongly considered because I believe there is
That was part of
water
the thought
flowing-
process with this whole thing.
flowing from that area to this pond.
I don't want to, we can't piecemeal this since we have another development right up against it.
There are no, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but there are no pipes discharging into this area.
There's not.
There was, prior to the upper portion of that road being constructed, there were overland flows through that area that went down into the farm pond area that then couldn't leave because of the roadway impoundment. Now that the rest of that roadway is constructed up above it, there's no more, that cuts off the flows coming in. The final proposed condition for this farm pond is a reduction in tributary area. And it took them a little while to get to that part where they, cut off flow from upstream. And it's hard to believe that now, seeing as it's so, it's obviously full of water. But it is a reduction in total tributary area.
But it doesn't seem to keep it from not rising.
Well, yeah, because that's the point of this profile is that historically there was an elevation where it would reach that elevation and then would overtop. That is no longer available, which is why they're saying that, they haven't done their discovery yet, but what I anticipate will likely be a part of that would be the reestablishment of something at that historic overtopping elevation. And, so it wouldn't be, it's not something that's tied into the farm pond, it's gonna constantly run and drain the farm pond. It's like, something that's set up a little, it's probably, looking at this, maybe it's a foot or so higher than the farm pond, than the top of the farm pond.
Mm-hmm.
So if it starts to pond up in the wet season, it would have that outlet.
And again, what we would like to do is when we can get into this area, is really do the detailed survey to understand the topography and where we can provide that historic relief. So we're mirroring what was the existing condition.
Because this is also impacting the road, correct?
Correct.
And
I mean, this
Lot
whole area
7
is
does not have an
saturated.
approved septic at this point?
Lot 7 has an approved septic.
It is approved? Jim signed off on that? Oh, that had to be retested. And 30?
30 has an approved septic.
All right, well, I would think we'd want to see a good plan. You guys write it up, develop it,
next-
write it
next
up.
step is-
I am actually on the opposite side of the table with Carl on this one. I would like to see it drawn down. There's a lot of trees and shrubs in there that are gonna die. And I don't know, eventually this thing will dry out by itself, and then you're gonna have a bunch of dead trees and shrubs.
That's-
Or,
yeah.
if it's cut off, it's just gonna fill back up again.
Right.
So, there's also a reason not to leave it in there, other than the fact you need to go in and do the microtopography as much. You can just go in and do bathymetry, at this point.
Problem, if it stays the way it is, it's gonna become green scum.
Yeah.
Because it
It gets a lot of nutrients from
Yeah,
the surrounding
can't-
area.
Well, there's no
flows
flow through.
through.
Yeah. It'll be a bog sooner or later.
Stagnating.
Be a white cedar swamp in there, maybe.
Yeah.
I didn't engineer the site.
No,
Well,
How could you miss this as an engineer? I don't quite understand
So-
that. How do you put a road in and dike an area that's been overflowing?
Now, what, the reason why the water is at the level it's at right now is a confluence of a number of different things that we're making educated guesses about. The standing water is at that elevation because there is no relief at that 263 elevation. At the end of the day, when this is dewatered and the site is stable, it's doubtful that the water would ever get to that elevation again. And if it were to, that's the reason why we're trying to put the historic relief in.
Except it's still going up every time it rains. You're saying what the watershed is, an inch of rain raises it an inch, so it would just fill up if it doesn't have a drain.
If it doesn't have a drain,
Yeah.
correct. But. who
Because it's
knows
obviously not
what's in the
infiltrating,
bottom?
and it's
Who
not
knows what's in the
evapotranspirating.
bottom? Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows what's in the bottom of this? There was a lot of silt and whatnot that was washed into this area. That water was murky back in April.
I can't
Now
believe it's that much. I mean, wetlands usually aren't recharge areas anyway.
Right.
well, I guess what Carl was saying was that that elevation and that overwash area, I guess it would have been good if it was caught earlier, to see that that's how the whole system functioned. I mean, so to repair it, I mean, it would, the more natural it looks to me, the support the more natural look. I don't like pipes.
And more natural
as it was-
function, too.
More natural function, and it would just look nicer, I think, and people would actually, I think, enjoy the look of it more. It's naturalized.
Well, if there's a culvert in there, you're not gonna see it, except for the two
Okay,
roads.
a culvert without a bottom to it. Right?
Well, you're still not gonna see it aesthetically.
Yeah, it'll be
But it
look
would-
more
it would-
like
it
a
would make it-
bridge.
It also might be easier to make it more of a weir-type structure, somehow with a low flow notch or something, because, I mean, if you set it at 263, it sounds like you're gonna get water 263. So you're still gonna have a really shallow pond, not an emergent marsh.
But that would have been the historic condition, that's where it would have overtopped prior, based on the existing
Except that it
conditions.
didn't, you said you've, seen aerial photographs, and
Oh,
the water
yeah.
stayed in the pond.
Yeah, I mean, I
If-
don't
if-
know,
But
if.
that's why I think there's an artificial relief in there somewhere. I don't know.
In which case, this would allow that water to stay, a little more water to stay in there than, and what Amy's referring to, I believe, is like, there might have been, some tile drains or something in this
well,
area.
that's very likely from what I've heard.
So all that would have done is artificially lower the water in this location, and then by establishing some sort of overtopping feature here, that would actually allow slightly more water, I guess, to stay in that area. But it wouldn't allow for any sort of,
And I think we'll be
ponding
able to,
like you see now.
we'll be able to understand that a little bit better when we can get back in there and resurvey with the microtopography.
And there lies the issue.
Right.
I can remember looking at the grasses and stuff, and they kind of reminded me of run-out meadow grass. not necessarily, not canary grass, but it was kind of a sour type grasses.
Yeah, it was, I think, if I remember, it was a mix of hydrophilic grasses and sedges and some rushes.
There were, yeah.
It was a mix, actually. It was
Yeah.
a-
Groundwater where there was water
So it's wet.
flowing
It was a
across
wet
it.
meadow,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, to the wetland boundary, yep,
wet meadow.
yes.
We're gonna lose that.
Well, that's one of the issues that we want to rectify, is that by dewatering this, we can also assess the extent of whether or not there's sediment deposition in these areas, the extent of potential mortality
Yeah, but the
of the
thing is,
wetland
you don't know
vegetation in
whether
this
it's
area.
spring fed or not, which it very well could be,
Well,
this particular
The pond
pond.
is, the farm pond intercepts groundwater. It's not maybe a spring per se, but.
And I'm questioning
Yeah.
how much flow under, call it underground streams, are coming to that pond from up above, meaning the K property and the ledge and stuff
Right.
that comes down through.
That's part of the issue.
Yeah. And I can remember hearing when Kay bought that property, there was issues of why he bought a wet area at that time. And that was probably 50 years ago. So I guess it's kind of up to the board as to how they want you to proceed.
I think it's more complicated than you're laying out, than just dropping the water down. I think it's more complicated.
Oh, it's
Well,
definitely more
yeah,
complicated than
Dropping the
that.
water is not the corrective action, that's to make an informed assessment of.
Well, maybe
of
need,
what
maybe
the
need
possible
to,
issue
maybe
is.
need to look at what Jim just said and see what's going on up on the other property.
Do a water budget.
Yeah, see what's happening before you do that.
None of that area should be tributary to it. I mean, unless, like you said, unless there are underground
Yeah, but we don't, that's,
conduits that,
Could be underground streams. I do know that across the street, when the dairy barn was there, water used to come out of the ledge and go into the dairy barn. Went right into the main,
it seeps.
yeah,
Yeah,
just
there
at
there are
certain
some
times of
seeps
the
out
year.
there.
And I believe you're probably gonna find the same over on the K property.
Well, I mean, if there were tile drains,
I think there were, I'd heard there were some tile drains put in there.
okay, but if the construction ruined the tile drains, regardless, we have to do something to replace what the tile drain was doing, potentially, or the natural flow. So why don't we just have them write up a plan and we can, review it and see if we're satisfied.
Has that cellar hole stopped filling up?
On 5?
Yeah,
Lot 5 is, well, it's raining right now, but
but
it wasn't.
my speculation was that you had two tiles there, and I bet they were wash wells. And the water is coming up probably underneath in that cellar hole, about where that tile was.
So, I don't have the exact elevations, but I know that's a net fill that we're placing these foundations above what was historic grade, so to say that that was groundwater is highly improbable. Because we're talking about feet
Did it-
above.
Yeah. Did anybody ever figure out what that structure is that's underwater now in the middle of the pond?
Mhm.
Oh, in the pond?
Well, outside the farmer's pond, but
Yeah,
it's,
it's-
you can't
it's-
see it now
it's
because it's
like-
underwater.
Oh, yeah. It
Remember there was some sort of, I don't know if it was a well or what the heck
It
it
looked like
was.
it looked like relic, yeah, there was some PVC on it. It looked like a relic remnant of pump that the farmer may have used to draw water from, was my thought on that. I saw that during the vernal pool investigations.
Yeah.
There's a sheet of plywood and some PVC over here that looked like a relict farm pump.
Years ago, believe it or not, I can remember that was all planted to squash before he put trees in. And the barn,
That's what
I
Cal
believe-
Yap just told me today.
and the
Oh, really?
barn, I believe, is set up for storing squash. And that's probably why they don't wanna tear it down, because of the cooling stuff that's in it.
So, what do we want to do?
Well, I guess you
So what's your direction?
I think you need more research before you draw down.
Well, also, I think Basin 3 needs to be finished. I thought we were planning to have that finished, so it would be a backup place to put the water in case Basin 2 doesn't work.
No, we when we develop the dewatering plan, we'll figure out exactly how we're gonna want to time it and where we want the runoff, the flow. The thought was always 4.
I'm sorry, I meant Basin 4. If 4
Which has
four
been
doesn't
fine.
work.
It's been operating fine.
Oh, okay.
And,
But you said it was still kind of an unknown.
well, it's not that it's an unknown. We haven't fully vetted the dewatering plan. What we're looking to do is to do that, and I would imagine pass it back
That's
through
probably
here.
where those swales, with those crossings in there, came into play years ago. If it flooded, that would be a way of checking it from letting too much flow out at any one time. Because there were pipes at the bottom, but those are fairly wide swales at the top, which would have held a lot of water.
We're talking about in wetland A.
Well, it's where they originally, that swale it went down through, that there was crossings. And I believe probably,
The stream that goes through, yeah.
and they would hold water back so it didn't flood the tracks down below.
They were decently sized, those 2 crossings.
I have a couple of thoughts. One is, what Amy mentioned about killing whatever, and I haven't been out there, so if someone has other information, but as far as killing the trees and the non-wetland vegetation, and if they've only been inundated for 4 months, it seems like rectifying that is not a bad thing even from a habitat standpoint. And I'm also wondering how you figure this out with a flooded site. One thing that concerns me is that we're heading into the dry season, and so if we dewater this, what if the water doesn't come back? And so, I would want, some sort of answer or plan on
If
that.
the water doesn't come back. So,
You mean by drawing it down, but not so much that we've actually...
Right, because we're heading in, like last
Right.
summer is a good example, where, right now, we think we're completely inundated, we're
Right.
good to go, and then, we dewater to try to investigate the hydrology and figure out what's going on, come up with a solution, but then we get so dry like we did last summer, and,
Then it goes, yep.
then we lose the wetland, and we
Wetland
lose,
plants.
so that's one of my concerns.
Okay.
So you need to leave a
You're
buffer for...
correct, but the only problem was that the pond stayed at this particular
It's
level.
always stayed.
yeah.
The central
The pond
yeah.
itself,
Yeah,
right.
the standing water here.
Yeah.
There was always water in that.
So you
Well,
wouldn't
what if
dewater
you
the
did something
entire thing?
like
We
drew
would-
it
okay, so
down?
that's-
No, we
So
would-
if you're looking
Yep.
at the farm pond
Yep.
here,
Mhm.
that we indicated that this is generally the historic elevation, it's below existing
Sure.
grade.
Yep.
We would be looking to bring water down to basically that elevation.
To that 262?
Yeah.
So not all the way.
So to leave the farm pond as you generally see in this picture, but to have access to the field and to actually dewater the field is more the intent than to take the pond down to some elevation.
farther.
Nor do I really think that we could,
Sure.
because it is probably groundwater fed.
Mhm.
Well, the pond, it's right now at, what, 265, give or take?
265.6, I believe, is when we surveyed it.
And what if you even just did, a foot or something, kind of trial drawdown? See if that got, especially some of these older maples up on the far side, kind of get their feet out. They could die and fall over. And then you could also see if it rebounds, or if it doesn't, when it starts acting like that. 'Cause it's gonna be I think it's gonna take a long, slow
It's
process.
gonna take weeks.
Yep, long,
to
slow,
get this
arduous
down.
process. And Brian and I, of course, will be looking into, Brian, from a civil engineering standpoint, is looking at the drainage issues and how to rectify that. As the ecologist and wetland scientist, I'll be...
You're saying what
perhaps
drainage
quibbling
issues?
with this. Well, I'd be interested to see in the delineated vegetated wetland, is the extent of either sediment deposition, if there's been mortality to the wetland species that have been native there, and then deciding in cohesion with the Conservation Commission about a corrective actions plan to either remove sediment or monitoring the plants and planting as necessary.
Well, what I heard from Jim was that historically, he thought there was sedges and some rushes, some other meadow plants.
Poor meadow grass that
Oh,
you get.
That's a combination of,
Yeah.
but
I don't know what that is by
So-
genus or common name. It sounds like a slang or.
From
Well, I
a
think
farmer's
he-
point of view, it's kind of run out
sedges, he just
land.
like,
It hasn't been lined.
Did you do
Oh, that's.
a data plot in there by any chance, do you know?
We did,
Or what's
we
his face?
should, yep.
I know what
And
you mean.
I'll need to, again, I inherited the delineation from
Yeah.
John Dick, our previous wetland scientist, so I.
Because when I was out there with Dick,
I would have to
it was
defer.
also transitional
And it's
over
kind
towards
of
where the road
wiry
is now.
grass.
It was,
too.
yep.
what's that?
It's kind of wiry grass too, as I remember, which is kind of poor, doesn't make much feed.
Yeah.
I would imagine when you're drawing it down, it will come back, I would think. It's all seed.
I would think
There's
so, yeah.
Probably a
I
lot
would
of
think
seed
that
in
for
there.
4 months, yep.
The
I
vegetation.
think that most of them are fairly
Yeah.
resilient, and I think they'll come back. But again, that's part of this monitoring process and
Yeah.
assessing it. But the longer it stands, the greater the probability of long-term mortality of these species.
Right.
So
It's
what,
gonna be ugly as sin when you draw it down.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. But I will have to defer back to my field notes on species there, either through the formal data sheets or just field notes that we took while we were out there.
so what about water coming down from K property? We just
I think it's coming underground.
blow that off and,
Wasn't that part of this process?
should
Because
be
they,
all
they need
part
to
of it.
solve a
I don't
problem.
know if it's
They need
part
to
of this
know where
process.
the-
I
Part of the
haven't heard
assessment of
that.
the drainage, right.
All I hear is drawdown. I haven't heard that.
Well, could you also do a profile the other direction, because you must have seasonally estimated seasonal high groundwater for 13 and
I
14.
think you need to find an old-fashioned dowser and see what he finds.
There you go.
Yeah, that's what I was
Seriously.
gonna.
Seriously.
Funny you said that. That's what I envisioned in my head. As a wetland scientist, I look at surface hydrology, and this may be a specialty for a geologist or hydrologist.
Well, the woman,
But-
what's her face, Kristen over on Fort Pond used a dowser.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you got there, I think, after she mentioned
Yeah.
that, but.
So we gotta move along, folks. I guess let's do some homework.
I can't make a decision tonight. I don't have enough information to base anything to make a
So
decision
What
on.
we would want to do is we would come up and finalize our dewatering plan and allow that to be independently reviewed and verified, and then we could pick up this discussion when we have a concrete plan to,
Yeah.
to dewater it and start moving this forward.
I do know that there's one board member that is pretty much adamant not doing anything.
Yeah, Sarah.
Yep.
Well, I think we should
Yeah, it's either come up with a dewatering plan or do nothing. I mean,
I think we should request, when we get this plan, I think we need to send it to Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
well, what are the ramifications if the water
Yeah.
level stays up where it is, to the road base? To lots 7 and 30.
How long before you think it'll top the road?
And this is, what, 2 or 3
I-
feet high?
Yeah, it's a good question.
It is still going up. It's been raining.
Especially after
It
the
has
night.
been-
Still going
it has
up.
been raining, yeah.
It's been going down and up, though.
But it's been going down and up. And I still contend that this will eventually dewater on its own, but I have no idea how long that will
Not
take.
this year.
Yeah, it might not. We are just coming out of spring right now. and
We haven't
Just the
come
worst
out of
case.
spring. I got water sitting in fields that
Is
can't
it-
get on.
Is it, the way it is right now, is it impacting your development?
Is it impacting?
Can we wait and see can we wait?
We really want
Till it's back?
to, we want to dewater this now.
Why?
It's impacting the road,
Yeah.
isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not
That-
acceptable.
That,
And
that
this is-
water being that close to the roadway subbase is not a good
Mm-mm.
condition.
Same with
You
the
don't want-
foundation that's already in
Yeah,
the
you
ground.
don't want water getting up high enough that it's moving laterally through the roadway subbase. That's
So
not a
if
good-
the water stays, they're gonna have to rebuild the road? If the water stays that
I
high?
mean, I haven't looked at it from a roadway
Or just
standpoint,
wash
that's
the
just a
subbase.
general statement.
Yeah.
It's probably, it all depends on, what you see, if you see any
It
Any
could be-
water coming out of the slope on the far side, like, that's not,
There is no slope on the far side.
Well,
It's like-
making
It's
it-
only on the other side of the house.
We'll make it an Atlantic white cedar
Yeah.
swamp. We need some of those.
Still need to draw it down to get to Atlantic White Cedar.
Yeah.
Mangrove,
Yeah.
maybe. Grow some salt in there and see what grows.
That's, I guess, my greatest concern is the, is the regulation of this area, in the fact that we have an ORAD defining the wetland boundary, and concerns of mine that by calling it for what it is, it's an in-construction drainage issue, and by, prohibiting us from taking action on this is creating a jurisdictional wetland area down the road, which.
So if you're
not-
calling it an in-construction drainage issue, if it drew down and filled back up again, then it's not a construction issue. It was, it was there's some other reason the water's stuck.
This area is gonna be looked at for a while, and this is
Yeah.
the first step of trying to discover and fully understand exactly what's going on, and at the same time restore the wetland resource area to what was.
The
here.
pre-construction condition.
Pre-construction
Right,
conditions.
this is
And
the part-
restore the
That's
pre-construction.
the part I don't understand.
Hydrology of this area.
That part doesn't make sense to me, that you're gonna, because you're saying two different things. You're saying you're gonna draw it down to study it to see, because Amy asked a question, what if it goes up and down on its own? And then you said that the reason you want to draw it down is so that you can study, investigate it, and bring it back to where it was.
Right.
So I'm hearing, so you're not necessarily studying it, you want to basically bring it back to the edge of the pond.
We wanna
I don't
put it
understand how
back
that's
to the
how that's in
historic
conflict. It's not that, drawing this down is not the corrective action, it's allowing us to investigate it, to engineer drainage for it, to return it to pre-construction condition, or pre-construction drainage, to model it, not necessarily, it won't be the exact same pre-construction drainage, but such that it retains the integrity of the existing wetland and the standing open water body, such that these are still viable in the post-construction condition, without expansion of a wetland resource area.
Resource areas are constantly expanding and
And
contracting.
shrinking, yeah, no, they're subject to change over time.
That's why we do wetland delineations every time a property's purchased,
Yeah,
or
no, I don't contend that.
Well, I think you folks need to come up with some
Well, I
data
think-
and what have you.
Yeah.
as to-
A plan.
Yeah.
What I heard is,
Then we'll go from there.
so a dewatering plan to make them happy, Carl. But try to get a better handle on some of the groundwater, surface water hydrology.
Yep.
Yeah, and mitigation too, mitigation plan for restoring the former
Well, mitigation
wetland.
plan's almost,
Right. Part of that is drawing it down to get to a point that we
Right.
can, we.
That's what I mean.
I couldn't even fathom thinking about a restoration plan at this point. That would be part of drawing it down to assess the damage.
Right.
to
I
it.
mean,
Yeah,
very
no,
generically,
make it
the
clear.
mitigation plan I'm hearing is some sort of cross culvert, pipe, whatever, bridge, something, and getting the revegetation back in there from, their point of view.
Right, from their
And
point
then-
of view.
See,
we get
you've
the
already,
board's
you've
point of
already,
view, it
you've
doesn't-
already made the leap.
Right, so you can't do the mitigation plan until you know if that's what everyone agrees is the solution. Or the solution is leaving
I would
5
think
feet
that
of water in there.
the plan maybe you should examine the two different outcomes. Say, okay, if you left it the way it is, what would happen?
We have
All
no
right, if you-
desire to leave it the way that it is.
I
But
heard,
still, it has to be a no-action alternative. You have to look at that, what
You're
will
gonna get a
happen.
groundhog in there to start digging holes in the side of the bank.
you have to look at, she's right. You have to, you have to look at if you're doing alternatives analysis, which we kind of are.
Did you happen to talk to anybody at DEP about this?
No.
Sarah said you might.
Oh,
Would
she did?
Would
No.
Mary DePinto be a good one to talk to? Or is
Mary Ann
that-
retired, they all retired.
Judy?
They're gone?
Yeah, Mary Ann DePinto's gone,
Yeah, she's gone. She's
What region are you
retired.
guys?
She has her own business, though.
Worcester.
Worcester Central Region. So it'd be, what's her name? She loves to comment.
Judy Schmidt is the
Yeah,
The circuit rider.
circuit rider, yeah.
circuit rider,
She's the one I usually talk to.
yeah. But there's a regulator with Central Regional who comments on just about any notice of intent that comes
Marielle?
through.
In Central?
No. Yeah, I would know her name as soon as I heard it, but of course, I'm
I
drawing
know
a
Western's
blank.
gotten in trouble, but for their comments, but,
Oh, is
in
it
the
Mark
past.
Stenson's neck of the woods? Well, he's circuit rider out there.
yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, anyway,
Marielle's the head of
we're not gonna come to any final conclusion tonight.
No, I think our intentions were to come, to investigate coming up with a dewatering plan for this.
Do we make any headway?
Yeah. Gradual, it has to be gradual. I mean, yeah. it could be.
I'm not sure.
Well, it
if we-
sounds like
I'm not
Basin
sure if we're there.
3, it sounds like Basin 3 could be resolved on the 10th.
Yep.
There's just a few task items.
Revise the plan and provide mounting analysis on Basin 3.
And is 5 actually staying dry? Lot 5?
Do you have any comment, Mr. Green?
On the farm point?
And, well, any of the, what we've been talking, any final comments for tonight?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, just to reiterate some of the things I said in the letter, I think it's pretty clear based on this profile that they cut across here, that there's a historic overtopping elevation, and as I said in the letter, I believe that drawing down the pond is a logical step in their discovery. Like they were saying, you can't come up with a wetland restoration plan until you dewater that pond and assess the condition of the wetland. The other part of that is reestablishing that that hydraulic connection at the historic overtopping elevation. I don't believe that is going to dry up the pond or anything. It's essentially just reestablishing a condition not exactly the same, but similar and at a similar overtopping elevation to the pre-development condition. So regardless of whether or not you have subdrains tied into that, or it's being fed by subsurface, whether it's tile drains or just groundwater flow through the subgrade.
Yep.
If it's getting into that pond and it's coming up out of the pond due to high groundwater, or it would still pond up to the same elevation that it historically did.
And it would still have to be relieved by, if we had an unusual amount of water, it would still need a relief someplace so as it wasn't overtopping.
It would, and which would be that, whatever, they haven't proposed
Yeah.
anything yet, whether it's a culvert or something like that.
Okay. So, we've got to move along.
All right. Thank you.
There is a planning board site walk out there tomorrow at 5:30 if anybody is,
5:30, 5:15?
5:15? 5:15, if
PM.
5:15.
anyone's interested. Meeting at basically the Basin 3 intersection.
I had 5:30, I thought.
I thought Martin told me 5:30, but I'd stopped paying attention. It changed so much.
Yeah, I had 5:30, at least. That's the last I did.
So get there 5:15. Get there 5:15, if nobody there, go look at the wetland creation area.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, project update, Chestnut Lane, Lot 12, 204-722.
I see nothing from him. He had said he had a meeting out in, I can't remember where, and thought he might be late, but this is seriously late, so. Plus, they did submit a wall design to the building department.
Good night.
Thanks, Lou. But it wasn't by anyone licensed or with a PE or something, so they got kicked back out again, so.
It's, that wall is what, 30 feet high?
Well, they've tiered it now, so it goes up and then over and then up and then over in like little shifts.
Haven't they got to almost have something and go directly into the found?
Oh, tie it in?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've definitely got it.
What was that plan, the
I would
plan
say-
you sent us?
Yeah, I'd say they need tie-ins, and I asked him to color that up, because, Sarah and I were talking, we weren't quite sure what had already been there and how it relates to what they're proposing. And he was gonna color it up and bring it, but he must have gotten tired.
Okay. Continued public hearing, notice of intent 204-850, 304 Foster Street, map R10, parcel 2-1 for septic system upgrade to replace existing failed system. Where are we at with that one?
If you remember, you hadn't closed just because he had to circle back with Board of Health, which he did. There were some minor changes, not even in the buffer zone. So if you're willing, I think you can probably close and issue the order of conditions. Because initially it said if he goes through Board of Health, everything's fine, he didn't need to come back.
Okay. Somebody want to make a motion to issue an order of conditions?
I can do it. So I'll make a motion to close the public hearing and issue an order of conditions for DEP file number 204-850-305 Foster Street. Yeah, I said issue an order of conditions, right? That was such a long title, I've lost my
I
train of
know.
thought.
It's been a while.
It's been a while, yes.
And I don't think there were any other, other than the ordinary special conditions. I don't think there was anything else
I don't think so.
that was discussed, yeah.
Because the Board of Health approved it as we saw it.
Do I hear-
There was some difference in the central box, which is outside the buffer zone. That was the main change.
Do I hear a
Okay.
second?
I've got the updated plans, but it's not buffer zone plans.
Okay,
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
There you go.
To go back a little further to Durkee, there is a set of plans. They were probably as big as this table across. It was at one point that we got from USDA. I don't know whether they all went out when they moved from the office down below and came up. I don't know whether Heather chucked them or not.
Plans of,
It's the GS that showed the different areas of town that they had photographed.
oh, so just aerial photographs?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I haven't run across them, which doesn't mean they're not piled up on some cabinet somewhere.
Well,
Because
it's such a...
if it's dusty, I don't touch it. It's just like,
It's such a big...
no one's looked at it in 20 years. It's,
It kind of disturbs me with the engineering was so far off on that site that, you know, there are all these problems we've been running into. I just have to question, don't have a lot of faith, I'm sorry.
Well,
Just
when you
because
dam up a road dams up an area, it changes. I've
mean,
never seen anything so changed in all my life.
I can't imagine that an engineer would put a road in there where they
Well,
knew that was going on, or you
I-
could tell that was going on,
I
or
don't think-
invest.
I don't think they knew because it was so dry, Carl. It was
Yeah.
just so dry for a
It was
year and a
dry.
half.
Yeah, it looked totally
I don't
different
think
than
they would
what
have done that on purpose. That's a
Kinda,
big
you know,
waste of
kinda
money to.
stupidity.
I'm not saying it's not purpose, I'm tending to agree with Jim. It's gonna be the smartest bears in the woods, but.
But it seems as though if they'd realized that the pond would overtop, there should have been some relief drainage underneath
Yeah.
the road someplace.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
Not big drainage, but
thank you.
something that would, it wouldn't take much to have stayed ahead of that.
Yeah.
But you get all the water we've had this spring, it's.
And wouldn't it naturally seep underneath that road if it wanted to find its level? Why wouldn't it naturally, I mean, they didn't,
It's compacted in there.
If they
So it probably
they're
can't get through.
compacted, if they use clay, a clay subbase, it wouldn't filter through it.
yeah, but it must have been at a much,
Because the road is at what?
Road's what, 10 feet above the pond?
No, oh, above the pond?
yeah, so the water didn't,
Or 6 feet?
even if the water, when it was
Less
acting
than 6 feet.
naturally, 6 feet's still a good height.
It was kind of
You would think it would still go-
toward those swales,
Towards the house?
towards the swales.
The
is how
road
the
is
field was
at
kinda
like
sloped.
almost 268. the pond historically observed, they say is 262.
Probably just ran right across the whole
Yeah,
property.
yeah.
Because it was see, that's the point I was trying to get to,
Yes.
was that you're comparing apples and oranges, man. You've got a developed site. We totally screwed up the drainage.
Yep.
And you man-made it, and now you want to try and manipulate it again because you screwed it up, you know? So now, and you can show me every aerial photo you want in the world. Yeah, the pond probably did stay at that level, but it was draining across the whole property naturally.
And it was
But
such a
now,
large
but
area.
so now we're being asked because, you know, of their development, and maybe it didn't need to be that many houses, or maybe that road didn't need to be there. I have no idea. But the point is that they screwed the site up, they screwed the drainage up, how it acted naturally, and now they want to basically, I don't care what he says, he wants to drain the pond, he wants to contour back so he can control the water. And so he wants basically he just wants to get
But if
to
it
how
does
they want
return it back to the way it did drain before.
Yeah, but
isn't
they
that
lost
okay?
all the, but they,
It can't drain the way it was before because
not
I think
exactly
it
the
filtered
way.
across
no,
the.
we've already lost, we've already
We can't
lost.
have it, we can't have it do that, so we have to decide how to sort of
think-
partially make it the way it was.
We need to understand where it's coming
Your box
from.
culvert and stuff, which would recreate the saddle, rebuild the road.
If they,
Spillway.
if they can't show a good understanding though of where that water's coming from, there's no guarantee that the solution they present is gonna work.
Yeah.
But even if,
I mean,
even
it's
if
in
the
their
water is
best
coming.
interest to understand where, you know, what I saw tonight, it just seems like they don't have a good handle on where it's coming from.
And the issue
Otherwise,
is-
this wouldn't have
They
happened.
just want to pull the plug.
And the issue is, once it goes, put the culvert in to go, or box culvert, bridge, whatever, underneath the road, then you've got this whole massive area that's just gonna discharge into a small area rather than.
Right, they're gonna cause a problem downstream.
Yeah,
That's, yep.
Well, but if that's the way it would flowed before, why
but
is it gonna
but
cause
had a
more of a
bunch of
problem?
it had
It's
some
spread
check
out.
Yeah, it
dams
was
in
spread.
those
It's spread out
swales.
across the
Right.
whole
It slowed
field.
it down.
Yeah, that's why a pipe or a focused culvert
It just
would
spread
concern
out,
me.
so it wasn't noticeable. It's like when Jim brought up that point, I knew right away what he was talking about. That it was forming these little wetland meadow channels where the sedges were and different wetland.
Well,
It's-
it would take out Lot 11, potentially,
That's what it did, so
which they might get rid of Lot 11 anyway, but.
so we've lost all that, which we didn't delineate all those little things as wetlands, but they were probably there, we just didn't, they were, you know, we probably should have looked closer at the wetland meadow stuff, but it was probably there, we just didn't notice it.
And the other thing is, we're talking about these wildlife corridors. They're gone, but they've raised up the roads. There's-
Yeah, there's no way, no,
No,
it ain't gonna happen.
that's a joke.
No.
Too many-
I still think that's a restriction.
Too many
And
houses.
you don't want,
Too many
you don't
backyards.
want to have a pipe restricting water flow. You know, no matter what's moving across there, there are things that will move across.
Yeah, turkeys and
Turtles.
ducks and,
Turtles, yeah, I mean,
But-
I'd rather
but
have them do that than
There
cross
wasn't
over the
provision
road.
for them to do that before, in the approved notice of intent. The road isolated the farm pond.
I
So
know,
anything that's
I
moving
didn't
would have
like
to go
that.
through the road.
I really didn't like that, personally. Because
I
I knew that
did.
waterfowl and other animals
Wasn't
would
the road
like to use that.
closer, initially the road was closer to the farm pond,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot in there too, that they moved.
Yeah.
I think Lot 8, they moved it away from here, stuck it up there.
but I mean, I guess.
Changed the radius to get it further away from the pond.
I guess I never anticipated how much they were gonna raise the road. Looking at it, I just, no, you're gonna put the road in, go wherever it is at a grade, but not to have it that high. And then they slice the hills down. I never thought they could do that. I mean, it was just, looked too bony up there initially for them to do that.
Yeah.
Leveled it all.
Can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting at 9:30?
I'll make a motion. to
Second.
adjourn it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now do your duty.
Okay.